Full Circle is brought to you by Goods Candy Shop. We aren't just better, we're goods.
Welcome to Full Circle. I'm Suzanne McAllister. Certainly our guest on today's program can relate to the word renewal. Later on, we'll be meeting April Morris. She left an abusive relationship with her 2 children. She was penniless, and she went on to start her own company. Also, we will meet Michelle Carrao. She survived a horrific sexual assault, and she has gone on not only to renew her life and her faith, but she is helping victims of abuse. Stay with us. You won't want to miss it. Welcome back to Full Circle. It's my pleasure to welcome Michelle Carrao to our program. She is the Community Relations Director for Prevail. She is also the survivor of a horrific sexual assault, and she's here today to talk about faith, empowerment, and resilience. It's wonderful to have you here on the program.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much.
Michelle, so many people that would have gone through a sexual attack as you did, many people never get on with their lives. What was it in you that allowed you to continue on? And now you're helping individuals who have gone through similar situations.
Well, first I have to say is my faith. I've always had a very strong faith, and I really had to look up in order to get through. And I believe that God placed people in my life to support me through that, so gave me the tools to get through. But also what empowered me to move on was I was in search for that person that had an experience similar to mine, that I could reach out to, that I could talk to, that I could visualize and look at, to see that I could make it through as well, and I could live a happy, healthy life. Because after my assault, I didn't have that insight. I didn't believe that that was possible.
I'm sure not. I've heard your story. Could you please go back 15 years ago, Fort Wayne, Indiana? You're going up to your home. Your gut said something wasn't right.
Sure. I happened to come home from a long day at work, and it was about 9:30 at night. And when I drove down my street, I saw 3 guys walking down my street, and it was September 12th, so beautiful fall day, beginning of fall. And 2 of the guys had hoods on their heads. So my gut told me it doesn't feel right. So I went around the block. And when I came back around, they were gone. So I was so tired, and I grabbed my things out of my car, and I walk up to my door, and I get the key in, and the next thing you know, I was on the ground. And I had no idea what hit me until I lifted my head to feel the warmth of the blood running down my face, and a voice that came back at me that said, "Don't scream or I will use this," as he shoved a gun to my face. And I say that there's no feeling word that can describe that feeling. I had the sense that I was going to lose my life that night, and there was no question in sight. And that's when I begged for my life at that moment and asked him to take my things. And as a female, my mom always said, be careful, single. And you never envision that happening to you. You think about it, but you don't know what you'll do next.
Because we always are warned as females, be aware of your environment, trust your gut.
Right.
And you did.
And I did.
And you thought it was fine. And here you are, you're now bleeding, but then they took you to another location.
They did, yeah. They shoved me in the trunk of my car after blindfolding me, gagging me, and tying my hands behind my back, and took me to a different location. And that's where they got me out of the trunk and took me to a garage. And that's where they all 3 sexually assaulted me, beat me, and sexually assaulted me.
And then did they put you back in the trunk after that horrific situation?
And they did.
And I understand that you, rightfully so, thought you were going to die, and you were taking your rings off.
I did. I took my ring and a bracelet off and put it in the crevice in my trunk. And I did get my hands free to pray because I couldn't find a way out of my trunk. And, that's when I really prayed for life. I couldn't visualize myself getting out of that situation until I put my hands together in prayer and prayed to tell my mom that I loved her. I didn't have that opportunity that day.
But there was an angel, so to speak, on earth, an off-duty police officer. Tell us about Arthur.
Detective Art Billingsley happened to be just get off duty, and he felt a nudge to get back in his car and drive around, and that's when he saw two of the guys go at the back door of a restaurant, and he followed them back to my car. He actually chased them because they took off, and he found me and my trunk in a wooded parking lot, in a, kind of a remote wooded lot. And I heard his voice. I was unconscious, and I came to his voice, and that's when I kicked on the trunk of my car. And
so by the grace of God, you were saved.
I was saved.
Thank you for sharing that story. It just makes me tear up. It must have just been a terrible situation. What happened to the rapist?
They got sentenced, very high sentencing. One of them got 320 years, another one got 210, and the youngest of them all got 70.
And that's very unusual because
it is very unusual.
So many women who have been raped don't even report, and oftentimes I understand the average term is about 8 years.
Yes.
So how were you able to bring closure, or have you?
Yes, I have. And the first thing came with forgiveness. To hang on to that anger would be letting them have control. So that's the first thing that I had to do to really move on. And the next thing is, I found, I came upon an agency, Prevail, in Noblesville when I moved here, and, they help people that have been through horrific incidences, victims of crime. And so I started volunteering there. And that's where I really found some inspiration of being able to help people. And so it really keeps you going and energizes you to know that you can make a difference, to know that you're not alone. And I think that that's one of the biggest things with when you see crime victims, they feel alone.
Absolutely. And there are agencies all over that do support victims of abuse and crime. How do you help people that have gone through similar situations as yours?
Well, one of the biggest things are support groups, to realize that you're not alone and to share your experiences and grow and get educated together in those groups. And advocacy is there are so many people out there that want to help, and you don't realize that until you take that first step and walk through an agency door to realize that it is empowering and it is helpful, because that's a big step, is to walk in through a door of an agency that can really provide some services for you.
Well, you are definitely reaching out to so many people, and there may be somebody at home who has gone through a situation and they've never talked to anyone about it. What advice do you have for them right now that perhaps they too can rely on their faith and bring closure and move on?
I would say take that first step and look into some agencies or some support in your area, definitely, because they are there to help.
And one last question. I know that you named your son a very special name.
We did.
Because you got married and you have two children.
Yes.
Obviously, your faith has really been so strong for you.
It has. It's the reason why I'm here. And the guy that I was dating at the time is now my husband. Unbelievable. But he is really solid and has helped me get through this. And now we have a son and a daughter, and we named our son after Detective Arthur Billingsley. So we're very proud of that. And he calls him Uncle Art, so he's part of our family.
Oh, that's wonderful. What a wonderful way to end the interview with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You can contact Prevail if you live in the Indianapolis area. The information is up on the screen. I'd like to thank Michelle Carrao for her courage to be here today. Well, don't go away. We will meet April Morris after this. We are back. It's a pleasure to welcome April Morris to the show. April went from living in a shelter for women who have been in abusive situations to starting her own company called Express Effects. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on the show.
April, you married your high school sweetheart. You were 17 years old. When did you know that he was an abuser? At what point did you realize that it was a bad situation?
I think there were signs before I actually got married, but I ignored them. I think during that time I was just 16 years old, so I didn't think about it. I just thought that was normal. And as time went on, and after we got married, I found out that I was expecting my first child at 17 years old, and then got married. It just kind of escalated.
So what advice would you give a woman that perhaps, just like you said, I saw some signs, but I thought that was normal? What were some of those signs that you saw?
One of the things is being very controlling, always asking me who I've talked to, and it's way more than just a casual conversation. It's something that would last for an hour, and it felt more like an interrogation, keeping me from my family and friends and school, things like that.
So you decided to leave, but you were penniless. How did the shelter help you?
Well, I had made the decision that I knew it was time to go, and I was living in South Georgia at the time, and stayed there, and they only had enough room for me for a few days, so I was scared to death about going back. I went back home where he was, and I called my family and said, I'm ready, and so they came down with a U-Haul truck within a couple of, not too long after that, and we planned it when he was at work.
So you really do have to have an exit strategy, don't you?
Yeah.
So you left and you came to Indiana and you started working and selling makeup, right?
I did, yes. As soon as I did that, I was working at a cosmetic counter in a department store, loved my job, but there I was, had 2 little kids to take care of, flat broke and starting over, and I was really struggling.
And I understand that even though you doubled your sales, when it came time for a promotion, you got a 50-cent raise. And was that a defining moment for you to realize you needed to take control of your own career as well?
Yes, I would say it's definitely a defining moment. I was very much expecting to get a big raise, and they shared with me 50 cents per hour was my raise that year. And I remember being so devastated because I'd worked so hard, but it wasn't their fault. I knew that they had budgets, and so that's when I thought, sometimes a new location is what it takes to get you to where you want to be. And that's when I had my radar up. I was always thinking about what I could do next based on my skills.
So you went into real estate, and that was very lucrative for you.
Yes, I did. Yep, I went into real estate, and it sure did pay off because in 2006, I won Salesperson of the Year. I sold over $9 million in real estate, made over a 6-figure income. I built my dream home. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I felt like my dreams had come true.
So you went from being penniless to living in a shelter to now a 6-figure income. I'm so glad you shared that because many times when we have negative things that happen to us, we get stuck. But you just decided that it would be an empowering moment for you.
Right.
But then your daughter was hurt in a car accident.
Yeah, I had gotten the idea for my product, Thin Gloss, several years before selling real estate, but I didn't have the money to start it. And so I was making more money, but I was comfortable. And so I was just kind of hanging out in that space where I was just comfortable, even though I had a dream of launching this product and owning my business. But when she had the accident, I get a call in the middle of the night, a mother's worst fear. And it was after that that I determined that life is so short that number one, I've got to put God first, my family first, and then my career. I had spent so many hours working, trying to reach that 6 figures that I really lost sight of my family.
And when you keep your priorities straight with God first, doors open.
Yes, big time.
And for you, okay, I'm going to reach over here and take a look at this Thin Gloss. Now, it just looks like regular lip gloss to me. Tell me about this product and how you said you had the idea for it.
Right, yeah, what's unique about it, Thin Gloss is an all-natural lip gloss made with ingredients intended to help curb appetite, to help you eat smaller portions.
So that sounds like a good thing. So what do you do?
It works great.
Just put it all over your food and the food tastes bad, right?
Well, that would be probably easy too. But,
Just kidding, actually.
Yeah, the way you use it's a 3-step ritual. You actually read the insert inside the box, step 1. Step 2, you inhale the aroma through the nose 3 times, 30 minutes before you eat.
Sounds like bubble gum. I like bubble gum, actually.
Yeah. Studies show that certain aromas can instantly curb appetite. And so the studies that I have found, those were the aromas that I put in Thin Gloss.
So you went to Shark Tanks, the television show that looks for entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And they liked your idea.
Yeah, they liked the idea. I did not do a deal with the Sharks, but after I was on the show, I have been just blown away by dozens of business opportunities. I've had several investors make me offers, and I'm in the middle of making some major decisions right now for my business.
So did you ever imagine growing up in Alabama and getting married at 17 years old that your life would have expanded as it has?
No, I could never dream of this. I mean, I just believe this is just the beginning. I can't wait to see what's going to happen and coming up soon.
So tell me about the experience on the television program. I personally have not seen it, but I know some of our crew here, they're very excited about the show. It had to have been very difficult because they are very grueling, and don't they make you prove that your product works?
It was very nerve-wracking. So when you're in front of the Sharks, you get one shot. There's no retakes, and you don't meet with them before or after. I mean, that's it. So I would say, yeah, they ask you, they're really tough on you. They ask you a lot of questions. They want to know what proof you've done. I was happy to be able to share I had done an independent study, which was great, but you're right, it was very difficult.
Well, April, I have talked to numerous women in the various things that I'm involved in the community, and many of them have an idea for a company, but they don't know how to go about it, whether it's a business plan or financing or just getting their product to market. What thoughts do you have that might be able to help somebody get through that process?
You know, first, maybe looking at the idea to see if it's viable and to see, how well the potential is for it to sell, in the, nationally or globally. And the Small Business Administration has got a division in Indianapolis, but lots of chapters all around the United States that offer free advice and free counseling from former CEOs and retired entrepreneurs. So I would definitely start there. The SCORE office at score.org is also a wonderful resource.
Well, you have been a wonderful resource, and I'm so thankful that both you and Michelle Carrao could be on the program.
Thank you very much.
I've been talking with April Morris. She is the founder of Thin Gloss and owns the company Express Effects. Well, don't go away. We have our music segment next.
Stay tuned. Musical Showcase is coming up next. And now, here's our musical showcase.
We are back. I'm glad you could be with us today. And if you find that you have been in a similar situation as our guest today, remember you don't have to suffer in silence. There are organizations like Prevail in almost every community throughout the state. Well, if you'd like to contact us and tell us about your story, you can go to our website or call the main number here at WHMB TV. We always love to hear from our viewers. Well, if you're a regular viewer, then you know that we end every program with music. And it's my pleasure to welcome Dusty Howe to our program. He'll be performing Waiting for Words. We'll see you next time.
While I was in the military, I served my country. I did my job, but as a veteran with a disability, I was worried about my career prospects. After my traumatic brain injury, Voc Rehab helped me roll up my sleeves and get back to work.
Made me realize that I could plant a beautiful garden for my community center.
Took my professional development to the next level with vocational counseling and education.
Showed me a bright future, even though my sight was damaged in combat.
Elevated my career, even though a back injury prevented me from doing heavy lifting.
Prepared me for my next mission and helped me realize that success after the service is possible.
If your service-connected disability prevents you from continuing in your civilian career, Voc Rehab offers counseling, training with a living allowance, education, and other services to help prepare you for your next mission.